Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's podcast. And today we are talking about, oh, yes, signs again. The subtlety of signs. So, let's see. um, let's see. So, 3 weeks ago, I guess, a few weeks ago, I did a podcast about signs, right? This is your sign. And I'm hoping that you took heed to the sign from the universe and took action on whatever it was that you were uh, waiting to get a sign about, right? I hope that you just moved forward with whatever that project was. Um, so today we are touching back on that a little bit, but I'm gonna get into some personal, oh gosh, some personal stories about signs just to drive the point home, right? So hopefully this podcast won't be too long, but we'll try to keep it short. I had a conversation with someone about signs after publishing the podcast, and um, I was really trying to emphasize how gentle they are, right? How signs can be so small and so like they're so easy to overlook. Um, and I decided that I should make this podcast as an addendum of sorts to the one about signs, right? All right. Just to drive the point home, right? Just to drive the point home. All right. So the soul is gentle by nature. All right. It does everything in its power to communicate with your mind and your body, right? Which is you, your mind, right? That's who you are. In the way that is the least jolting as possible, right? Your soul, as I said before, it doesn't want to scare you. It doesn't want to cause you harm. It doesn't want you to be unhappy, right? When we get to that point, it's usually because we haven't listened and it didn't have a choice, right? It had to do something drastic in order for you to take drastic action, right? For your highest good. So it just comes down to you paying attention, right? You gotta pay attention. We gotta pay attention. The signs are always there. So my personal experiences, two major things that happened to me to underscore the point of the gentleness of signs. Like they can tell you major things in very gentle ways. Have to do with traveling and moving, right? So, let's see. Well, I guess the thing that connected the two little stories I'll tell you have to do with my relocating and the weather. The weather was the sign, right? Okay, I know you're like, what the? All right, so the first time happened, I was coerced by the weather to take action while I was living in paradise, literally, like paradise. I was on an island paradise, like where people retire to, a place where everybody always wants to go. They put it on their bucket list, all that. I lived there. Um, and I mean, blue water, blue skies, white sand, you name it. Just like on the Louis Vuitton, Gucci ads when you magazines, that's what it looked like. I'm sure they shoot there all the time or whatever. These impossibly beautiful places. So I was there working, right? Nice life. I was happy with everything. But then suddenly the weather changed. The weather changed, right? Suddenly I went from, this temperate, warm weather, this warm blue water that you could see to the bottom. Suddenly it was cold, right? And I was always cold. I just felt like when I was working, right, I was cold in my lovely apartment with the little balcony, and I could literally see a castle outside of, like on my balcony. I saw the, the sea to the left and to the right. There was literally a castle on a hill that I visited, right? Like, it's crazy. But everything was cold, right? Everything. My apartment was cold. I was always cold. Everywhere I went was just freezing. And like I literally didn't buy a coat there. And I refused to. I'm like, I didn't come here to be cold. And I kept telling myself that. My landlord, sweet little lady, like lent me one of her coats because I'm like, I wasn't prepared for this. But the funny thing is that the weather was not out of the ordinary for that island. The locals were fine with it. They're like, no, this happens. It does get cold here. I'm like, oh, nobody told me that before I moved here, right? But so that was the first thing. And then, of course, I still wasn't sure of myself, because weather is, you're like, okay, get over it. It's not a big deal or whatever. But then the school that I was working for paid me late. And I found out that there were problems within the entire country's educational system, right? So I'm like, this is systematic of something bigger, right? If they paid me late this time, then ain't no telling, what could happen in the future. And then I found out other people who lived in other cities in the same country, like, were getting paid late or hadn't been paid at all. So I'm like, see, so things were building. Suddenly, one of my debit cards from the States stopped working at ATMs there, just inexplicably. Like, talk to the bank, whose ATM I was using. Nope, everything's fine. My bank at home, they're like, nope, it should be working. Used another one. I had 2 different banks in the States. Neither of my cards worked. I couldn't get food one night. Like, by the grace of God, like, I just went into a grocery store and swiped my card and it finally worked. But yeah, so it was just kind of like, or whatever. And then suddenly I started having little problems with my students and my co-teacher, right? So I just wasn't excited anymore to go to work. It became a chore. Now, all of this stuff was like small. It wasn't anything that were groundbreaking, right? Earth-shattering. Or it's things that you could easily talk yourself out of. I could have easily just been like, just get over it. You're just having a bad week, or, the weather is going to get warmer again and things are going to get better. And, this wasn't like agonizing outwardly, but it was just like little stuff. The weather, every day I would wait for it to be warm, and suddenly it wasn't. I'm like, and they would tell me, oh, just wait, it'll get warmer, don't worry. And I would just be like, I didn't come here to be cold. As simple as that sounded, like, that was my deal breaker, right? Apparently I didn't even realize it. Once I was cold there, I guess my soul was like, it's time to go, right? It's time to go. Well, what happened is that I eventually ended up leaving, right? I listened to myself, because little things were adding up. I'm like, I'm not happy day to day here. And even though it's small and people think I'm crazy for leaving paradise, and my logic doesn't follow this. It doesn't make sense logically. I gotta go, right? I gotta go. I'm cold to the bone. I'm cold in the place where I'm paying, rent, a nice amount of rent, and I can't even be comfortable. I'm wearing wool sweaters, and like, I can't do this, right? And like, I couldn't. That was my deal breaker, right? I had already frozen my toes off in Asia, so I'm like, I can't be cold anymore. I can be cold in the States, right? But I left. I followed my instincts. I left. And turns out major life events were about to happen. And I was simply being called back to the States, right? So everything made sense in retrospect, right? And I was ecstatic and relieved and overjoyed that I had listened, because had I not listened, I would have been devastated. So something was pulling me back. And I mean, eventually maybe things would have gotten extremely out of hand. I don't know. Maybe I would have been, deported. Who knows? But, your soul has a way of getting you to do what it wants you to do. So that's the message here. Again, second story happened literally right after this one, and it involves, again, the weather. So I guess that's my soul's little connect or whatever, like the weather. Came back to the States, decided, okay, I'm going to move to Miami. All right, that was another dream I had. Check box, I wanted to live on an island. Check, okay, I'm moving to Miami since, that's for whatever reason. Now, at the time, I still didn't know why I had been pulled back to the States, but I just knew that I was supposed to be in the States. So I'm like, okay, well, I can go wherever I want, right? I'm a free person, right? It's a free country. So moved to South Beach, right? Go big or go home. The plan there, don't laugh. You could laugh, that's fine. I was going to be a starving artist, lay on the beach and paint and write poetry by day, party by night. Did a lot of partying. Ooh, a lot of that. A little bit of starving, right? When I went on dates, I always ordered vegetables because I couldn't afford them. That stuff is expensive in my daily diet. Um, but in a teeny bit of painting, some painting on the beach, and no writing whatsoever. None. I did none. I was just not inspired. The superficiality of it all, like, it was beautiful, it was fun. I just was not inspired by the, South Beach atmosphere to write poetry. I wasn't. Um, and so, but I was happy, right? I was just, okay, whatever. I'm here to paint. I'm going to paint on the beach every day. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I came here to do. Um, and one day it rained. One day it rained. And the first day that it rained, after I had moved there, I literally did not know what to do with myself. And that's rare. I'm never bored. I know how to entertain myself very well. Like, my mind, but something shifted in me. I'm like, oh my gosh, it rained. Like, I'm like, I can't go to the beach and paint, so what am I going to do? That was my whole point of coming down here. Went to the library. It was crappy. Like, it was not a good library at all. Went to a museum. It was okay, but nothing I needed to do again. I've seen better, right? I'd seen better in both, but again, South Beach don't specialize in libraries or museums. And even, downtown Miami. But the weather had given me my first sign. Now, since I had experienced that living in paradise, I realized, like, what does this mean, right? And so it just hit me one day. Like, I think the same day. I was like riding a bus back from downtown Miami back to South Beach, and I was just like, this is silly, right? This is silly. I couldn't even paint in my living quarters, right? I was paying per week what I would pay anywhere else per month. South Beach is no joke. And I couldn't even paint there. It wasn't comfortable. It was too small, right? It was teeny, uninspiring, old, right? But you say, well, why did you? Well, I had to get what I could afford. And the plan had been for me to draw my inspiration from the beauty of the beach, the sunsets, the sunrises, the moon, right? The water. So I wasn't even supposed to even be painting in that apartment anyway. So it worked out. It was all about location, 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 right? Stumbling distance to, all the hottest spots and the beach. Like, that was the whole purpose, right? So this time I was able to quickly come to the decision that it was time to go, right? This time it clicked. In Paradise, it took a little longer because that was my first experience with that. But this time, it clicked. The weather, the rain, just the absurdity of it all, like the amount that I was paying to live there, the fact that I wasn't inspired to write, the fact that I couldn't even paint. So I'm just like twiddling my thumbs, like, no, this ain't it. I'm wasting my time, right? That I just had a strong feeling that I was wasting my time. So teeny tiny things that happened after that. Very, very minor. But I decided I wasn't going to stick around this time to see, how things panned out. So, or how unhappy I would become. Like, maybe it would have rained again and again. I'm like, nope, not happening. I'm not building no arcs. I'm not collecting no two animals. Like, gotta go. I partied enough for a few lifetimes. Just in like 1 week alone. That was crazy. But I came back. And in retrospect, again, everything made sense, right? I was being called back ASAP, right? Starting back at one, like Brian McKnight. And like major things happened, major familial shifts happened. The country was about to go up in flames, right? History was about to be made. And I needed to be a part of history, not laying on, European or even domestic sands, right? That was what the universe was telling me. You got work to do. You can't just be laying here like, you don't have bigger things to do at this point in time. So, in conclusion, I would tell you yet again, listen to the signs, right? Listen to the signs. No matter how small or silly or minor they may seem to you or even other people. You ain't even got to tell people, because they may think that you're crazy. Like, What? You left paradise because it got cold? Really? What kind of. You left South Beach because it rained? Like, it wouldn't have made sense to them. It wouldn't have made sense. But it did to me in retrospect. It didn't at the time, I ain't gonna lie. But in retrospect, it did. So follow your gut, right? Follow your gut, follow your instinct. Always, 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 always. Right? All right, y'all. That's all. This podcast was a little longer than usual. Sorry about that. Story time. You know how story time go. Have a great week. Love, live, light, laughter. Peace out, y'all. Bye.